Breath. Inside my head. When I'm with you, it travels too far away, far away. When we're together, when we're together. We're together. We're together.
All right, guys, just a few more minutes. We'll wait for a few more people to jump on.
It's a feeling I can't. Where did you go? Over. Was it when you so easy when you're home? I just want to feel I just want to feel because it's when you I just want to feel Playing every word you said. Oh no, you really wrong. Cause it's you, it's you. I'm with you, I'm with you. So when you call me, I just want I just want I just want
Alrighty, welcome all. Thank you all for jumping on tonight. I'll just pop up the camera again. So you guys should be able to see the screen in front of you. I just asked for during this webinar, the Stuck Potential webinar, where we teach you everything to win at fitness. Just keep the microphones off. At the back end of tonight, we'll open up the Q&A, where we'll encourage people to jump off their mics there, and I'll give you the opportunity to unmute yourselves and ask away. But on the bottom there, I can see a few people already jumping onto that chat box there. You can, beautiful. You guys can jump into the bottom there with the chat box. I'll be posting a few things in this chat box throughout the night. We have a few resources available for you guys to download and look at and be a part of. So thank you all for jumping on. It's a beautiful part about being live is you guys actually get access to the freebies that come along with this tonight. But feel free, jump onto the chat box. If you have any questions, rather than unmute yourself, just jump into the chat box, put that on there for me. I have it up on my side screen. So if you see my eyes going everywhere, it's because I'm monitoring a few different screens with questions and links and all channels that are needed. But yeah, anything you guys need, just put it in the chat box. I'll be able to see it. Alrighty. So let's get into it. Hang on a second, it's going to meet someone else just jumped in. Alrighty. So the Stuck Potential webinar. So tonight we're going to cover everything around how to win at fitness. Tonight's webinar is designed to basically bring out all the flaws, a lot of myth in the industry, a lot of things that we've seen over our 9 years of experience in coaching well over 400 clients and athletes, and basically bring it to the surface in a really concise and hopefully easy to understand and digestible information night for you guys to take away and apply to your current fitness programs, but also your goals. That way you can start winning at your fitness journey. So Purpose Fitness is dedicated to helping you, obviously, find your purpose. So massive welcome. I kind of did this already, where tonight is all about the breakthrough. So it's not just about the body. All right, tonight we're going to be focusing on your habits, your mindset, and the results. So like I said, it's the key components of all areas where most of our clientele have come from and things that they've had to overcome in order to succeed at their fitness journeys. And typically the biggest barriers that most people will face throughout the fitness time and areas that can really maximize their results. And obviously you're joining here tonight because you're here and you want more, and we're all here to show you exactly how to get that for yourselves. A lot of you guys on here are already clients, so it's great to see you guys here, getting education a part of it as well. For you guys that already know me, but for those that don't know me, here's a little introduction to your coach. So myself, my name is Jarrod Miller. I'm the head coach and founder of the Purpose Capital. I started Purpose Fitness back in a small town here in Australia called Dubbo, New South Wales. It's a country town. I started back in 2016, where we helped. Dubbo had a high population of obesity, and it was ranked when I was doing my certificate in studies as one of the biggest places and highest demographic percentage for obesity. And it's a small country town. So to have that kind of statistic goes to show the type of clientele that we work with and the lifestyle and behaviors that typically would follow in those small country towns. So I came from a small country town where there wasn't really much around education. So a lot of the things I've had to do was to learn. And that's why I'm here today, is to help you guys overcome a lot of the things that we've had to learn, and develop and master in order to get ourselves to a successful standpoint, but also to maximize the body's transformation as well. Obviously, director and founder of the Purpose Capital. So the Purpose Capital has now gone from just Purpose Fitness being the personal training and coaching operation. Now we take care of all things sports nutrition, nutrition preparation and meal prep services, a full range of import, export of sports nutrition, and as well as RTO education. I'm a certified coach and registered RTO trainer with the Australian Institute of Personal Trainers, and still undergoing a bachelor in biochemistry mastery. Obviously, I've got a few features across magazines, websites, podcasts, TVs. So all those are available if you guys want to check out those online. And obviously, my mission here today is obviously to teach you guys, but the mission to the Purpose brand is to help educate, inspire, and motivate and transform you guys to live with purpose through the avenues of health and fitness. We stand for premium service, an all-in-one inclusive service, above industry knowledge, and support. So 2016 was where it started. This is a little, everyone likes a little bit of a storyteller. This is a bit of photo of young little me, 2016, skinny me. All right, I've had a few burgers in that time to where we are now 7 years, well now, actually 9 years later, to be honest. We've transformed more than 400 clients' lives, and specializing now with a lot of athletes. In my time, I've successfully mentored and graduated well over 20 graduates in their certificate 3 and 4 in fitness to go and now take on the lives and transform more people's lives. Today's agenda. So we're going to cover the 5 pillars for success. So the key thing for tonight is we're going to cover all of the basics from the ground up. A lot of people want to dive straight into the nutrition, and the training, and what's the best training split, what's the best diet split, all of these things. But a really simple concept that I like to sort of teach you guys is, it's easy to apply to money. If I gave you $1 million tonight, and you see this all the time with people that win lotteries, if you won the lottery tonight and you didn't master the skill of money management and financial literature, most people who win that lottery end up bankrupt in a very short time. The same thing happens when we see clients get a hold of comprehensive, accurate, and above industry programs. Sometimes you can have the best program at your fingertips, but without the change of your belief, the change of your mindset, and the successful pillars around that training program, you will fail. And this is one of the key things we see with clients that work with us in our coaching, is sometimes they can have the plan right in front of them, but still not execute their potential. And this comes to limiting beliefs and the key pillars that surround you. So we're going to cover the groundwork tonight before we enter into the training program side of things and nutrition mastery. So you've got the 5 pillars for success, belief and mindset shifts. We'll move into nutrition mastery. So the key things that we want to teach you is how to maximize your fat loss in the same process of gaining as much muscle as possible. We're going to teach you the training fundamentals for your results, the right supplements, what you need and what you don't need, and what's really blocking your progress, or some potential barriers. Obviously, we'll touch on, if you guys wish to work with us, how to get into that, so how to work with one-on-one, and then we'll do a live Q&A for you guys to jump in, ask any questions, or clarify anything that you might not know. Let's rip into it. So first up is obviously improving motivation and productivity. A lot of people rely on motivation as the key to kickstart anything. And that's one of the things that gets people into fitness to start, is they're motivated. They come in from a position of pain, a position of frustration. But as that individual starts to get into it, they realize there's a lot more work that goes in behind this than they really thought. It's not as quick. It's not as easy. You get faced with a lot of barriers. You get faced with a lot of internal demons. The true self comes out, and then all of a sudden, motivation dips. Something in life happens. Stress occurs. Relationship happens. All of a sudden, motivation and productivity dies pretty quick. When motivation dies, the foundation pillars aren't there to sustain. And that's where most people fall off. So tonight what we're going to do is going to teach you the foundations on how to not necessarily rely on motivation, but how to set up your successful pillars around you, which is productivity. So what is productivity? Productivity is about how efficiently you can complete tasks, the amount of effort you put in, and what results produce. It is about getting important tasks done effectively and consistently. Time is your most precious asset, so start making the most of it. Being productive requires some personal effort due to advances in social media platforms, pocket entertainment, iPhones. However, it is possible to work smarter and not harder, to become more productive in your work and home life. This is achieved by training yourself over time to prioritize important tasks and eliminate distractions. It's not easy. We're all human, but being more productive and efficient can lead towards happiness and success in various areas of your life, such as creating healthier work and life balances. Managing your time and priorities in a new way can reduce overall stresses and provide motivation in achieving your goals and dreams, which is what we all want. And a very big thing here I always say to people is like anyone can be busy, but are you productive? I've been guilty of that many times in my career. Is it's easy to do 14, 15-hour days, but what percent of that work is actually yielding the biggest return for you? And that's what we want to focus on, is more bang for your buck. Smarter, not harder. So how can we be more productive? To maximize your productivity on a long-term basis, you're going to need these few key pillars or strategies. So number one, we've put these down as 6 simple pillars. So I hope you got your notepad. This is where you're going to start writing. So number one is creating a morning routine. Routine is everything. Number 2 is doing the most important work first. Number 3 is doing your least important work after midday. Number 4 is making time for creative periods in your schedule. And I just want to touch on number 4 here. As we get older, right, we typically lose our creativity. Been doing a lot of studies recently around mental health, depression, and this is in my opinion and from what literature I read, but there's a huge correlation link between the lack of creativity in individuals' lives and the enhancement of mental health and depression states. As kids, we grow up with a world that we haven't experienced. And in that, we become a lot more creative. If you ever had kids, you'll know as they get to 3, 4, and onwards to 8, the things they come up with is incredible. The way their brains work is incredible. But as we get on with life, we get molded to society. We get told what we can believe. We get told what we can't think, and we become more numb to our creative senses. It's when this happens, I find most people lose inspiration. And that's a huge killer to people's dreams and hopes and aspirations. And therefore, that's where a lot of our shape and belief become, is we stop dreaming. Number 5 is implementing tech-free time. And then number 6 is create an evening schedule. Now, you probably listen to me say these 6 points and think, oh yeah, it's pretty basic. But a lot of us fail at setting these up. Now, when I refer to creating a morning routine, let's break this down into more simple terms, right? When we look at creating a morning routine, what we want to look at is my encouragement is to get up nice and early, achieve the day before people are awake. Most of us will be working 8, 9 a.m. in the morning, all right, starting the day. Some of us aren't morning people, and I understand that, but it's also the way you formatted your life over a long period of time. The longer you can kind of get yourself into a routine and sustain, the more it becomes an autonomous habit that you can sustain. Now, when we look at morning routine, I encourage getting up a little bit earlier than what you typically are. I mean, if you're already up at 4 a.m., I'm not encouraging that. But if you're typically a sleep in, and you're the individual that's sitting behind the thing with your microphone muted or the camera off with a big grin on your face saying, yep, this is me, this is you. So create a morning routine, get up a little bit earlier. And this is where you need to start setting up your day for success. So in the morning routine, you want to do things that are going to enhance the chemical state of the brain. This is can be working out, but not always working out is a must. I don't encourage everyone has to train in the morning. But in terms of a morning routine, the key thing you want to do is get up. Obviously, if it's daylight saving and it's winter and it's dark outside, but in summertime or where you do have exposure to sun, is get exposure to sun within the first 30 minutes of waking up. If you don't like caffeine or are heavily affected by caffeine, delay that by 1 to 4 hours. But you want to get up and get moving. If you get up and you lay in bed, scroll your phone, you will most likely end up in a very slumped, lazy format for the day. And you set that tone for the day. If you get up and you set the tone, you encourage yourself and your brain to start firing away. From there, you want to obviously get a good nutritious meal in, and then obviously look at your activities for the day. If you run a business, this is the most important things that you do prior to entering work where staff, customers, everything else will interact with you. If you work a 9 to 5, but you have other dreams and aspirations, this is the time to start achieving that in the hours where you're not going to be working your job. This is the time where you can spend creative. This is all up to you on what you put into this time. But this time, like I say in number 2, is doing the most important work first. So you want to identify what tasks you have in a day, in a week available to you that will yield you closer towards your goal. And if you're not clear on your goal yet, we'll get to that. But if you have a goal, or you have an aspiration, or you have an idea or a dream, these are the tasks that are going to get you to that goal and that dream faster. These are the ones that are going to have the biggest return on your investment of time. Following that, you obviously enter your day, you'll be at work, etc. If you run a business, all right. After midday, you'll have a bit more availability. You got school pickup. This is the time where you most likely aren't going to get anything done. When your kids are home, you've got dinner time, washing, unfolding for the day. All right, preparing dinner, all of those things that come in. Right. If you don't have kids, you're lucky. This is also the time where you can utilize other tools and other things that you don't need as the most important. These are things like checking emails, jumping on social media and checking who's messaged you for the day. I'm sure they can wait 6 hours. All right. So these are things that you still need to do, but aren't that important and aren't going to give you that return. And number 4, obviously making that creative period. If you're creative when you first wake up and your brain's firing, just that time to spend where you're not getting interacted by people, social media, getting harassed by your boss. All right, that's that time you can do in the morning to start creating your idea towards your goals and getting a bit more aspiration behind you. You can read, you can listen to YouTube, motivation podcasts, whatever it is that inspires you to set the tone for the day. That's what you can put in. Obviously, if you have family and stuff like that in your downtime is after, you can look at doing that creative period at the end of the day where you can sit down and analyze. All right. And then obviously implementing tech free time. This is really big. Obviously, phone's always in our pocket. So turning notifications off is key to distracting apps. An app that I'd recommend you guys download or look at implementing into your life would be Opal. So OPAL. I'll put that in the chat. Opal is a game changer app. The subscription will cost approximately $97 Australian per annum. So per year. You can pay monthly, I'm pretty sure. It's a once-off cost on that. But you can actually set up allocated time schedules that app will block certain applications like Instagram, Facebook, anything else that's distracting towards you, emails, and you can create blocks in your day. And that will allow you to not get distracted, not allow you to open up your phone, and allow you to focus on what's important and get those tasks done. All right. And a big killer in the tech-free time is your gym time. I took a recording the other day. I was going to post it, but I thought I better not. All right. But there was a recording where I recorded everyone in the gym. There was 13 people in the gym. And can we take a guess? Put in the chat. I want to get you guys interactive. Pop in the chat. There's 13 people in the gym, on the gym floor. Put your number in there and how many people you think were heads down on their phone, not training. 26 out of 13. Yep. 10, 10, 15, 9. Pretty close. 11. 11 people were sitting on the bench on their phones scrolling. I was appalled, disgusted. But this is why most people aren't getting results either, is because the intensity you set in your sessions and the intensity that you bring to your life is being filled with distractions. And this is why we're not productive. All right. And then in terms of the creative and evening schedule, all right. So obviously, if you're a parent, you've got your routine, you've got the bedtime, what time the kids go to bed. All right. You've obviously got your dinner time. You're going to sit down, hopefully without screens involved, have your dinner, whatever else. All right. If you run business, you're typically going to catch up on the day of work, like admin, accounting, invoicing, whatever other tasks aren't bringing you cash flow in. All right. Obviously, if you've got a job, this is the time. If you want to do a side hustle, this is the time that you're going to be working on those tasks to build that side hustle dream for yourself. Whatever it is, this is up to you, but implement these 6 steps into improving your productivity time frame. Okay. Now, in terms of the morning routine and the evening schedules, these two, 1 and 6, are very important. From tonight onwards, I want you guys to set a precise, sustainable, and attainable wake up and bedtime routine. So, what I mean by that is you want consistency. We're like big babies, and you can't argue on that. Coach 400 of you. We are all big babies. We love our routine and we need our sleep, but routine is where we all prosper. Okay, so having that routine is really important. If you're a parent, you'll understand what a child is like, or a baby is like, if you mess up that routine. And we are no different. We just get a little bit older and a bit older. Look at, all right? And hopefully a little bit bigger. But nothing changes. So you need to put yourself into routine like a big baby. All right, because it's going to yield you the best return ever. It'll make you more focused, more productive, and also reduce the cortisol effect. And I'll talk about this later as we get into barriers. So in terms of this, you might set 6 to 10. So 6 a.m. wake up, 10 o'clock late time bedtime. But like I said, you need to do it sustainable and attainable. Okay? This is up for you to sit down and review from tonight. But this is you must. You must do this from tonight. If you delay it, you're not going to do it, and you'll keep repeating the same behaviors and patterns you do. Now, let's move on. The big thing around improving productivity is the 5 to 95 rule. Pop in the chat box if you've ever heard of the 5 to 95 rule. Just a yes or a no. No. Yes. No. Cool. We're here to learn. So it's good. If I hear no's, it's good. If you all said yes, I'd be a bit disappointed. So the 5 to 95 rule. So this is really key, and it's a big game changer. So you want to spend 5% of your time planning and 95% of the time doing. A lot of us are stuck in not planning or keeping the plans inside the head and not doing anything at all. And what I mean by that is a lot of you guys have dreams, goals, and you're stuck in idle, spinning all these ideas in your head, but nothing is actually getting done about it. A few people are laughing on the screen there. I think I hit something there personally. All right. So 5% of the time, you need to plan. Pop in the chat box. How many of you guys sit down and plan out your days and nights? Yes or no? Good. Yes, every week. Just work. Yep. Oh, some people still thinking. Not really. Yes, for weekdays. I try, but hard to keep up. Yep. Just the kids. Cool. So about 50-50 across the split. So it's good. So a lot of people are planning, and a lot of the planning comes from activities that aren't for yourself. Like we said there, for example, kids. We put everyone first but ourselves. We don't plan for ourselves. And we plan for everything else going on around us, work, your boss's requirements, children, all of that, but we lose out on the specificity of our own time, which is key. So a new rule that you guys need to be doing, okay, and implementing into your schedule It is going to be hard, but like everything, it's all about habit routine setting. So you want to spend 5% of your time, literally 5 minutes of a nighttime, all going to bed. And if you improve your, especially you females, because you guys are overthinkers and you guys, your brains go crazy at nighttime, you can't say I'm wrong because I work with a lot of you. All right. So before bed, to give yourselves a peace of mind, have a book next to your bed. You might think I'm silly. Get a pen and literally write out all of the things on your mind that you have not done that need to be done and put it into a list. It doesn't have to be in order. Put it in a list. Put everything down, all of it. And then on the next page, you're going to plan ahead for tomorrow. You're going to go, okay, what time am I getting up? You've already set your wake up time. So that's your starting point. 5 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever time you've set, that's your time. Set that as your time and then lay out your day ahead. What time you need to be at work? What time school drop off? What time is this? What time's that? What time are you going to train? The biggest thing is most people don't put times in. They don't allocate what time they're going to train, how long they're going to look at training for. And what happens is we start to dip into other important times, and next thing you know, we blow out schedules and we don't adhere to the tasks that need to be done. And next thing you know, we get backed up tasks and our heads start to overspin and we end up in that stuck in position of being stuck and not productive. So have that pen and paper, all right, put it next to the bed. Typically try and get off the phone because unless you have an app that's actually going to be effective for you, like Motion or Notion, whatever it's called, there's a few of those available where they actually work on productivity. But you need to have away from distraction, otherwise you're going to end up or sticky notes on the forehead layer. Beautiful. Okay. So what you're going to do is do that, have it away from the phone so you're not getting distracted. So if someone, sends you a funny reel on Instagram, you're not going to be distracted by watching that and not planning ahead. And from there, you watch your productivity increase and you're going to yield a lot further returns because you're going to be maximizing every hour of that day much more effectively. And when you wake up, you're going to wake up with a purpose, not a stressed out mind. Because what happens is we get up in the morning and we're stressed out and we're also unclear and we're stuck. We don't know what time we're going to train. We're in a rush. We're not prepared. Nothing's organized. Then we walk around like, oh shit, what do I have to do today? Crap, what am I going to do today? Oh yeah, that's right. And then we get on with the day and we go, we'll figure out the day as it comes. You need to start planning ahead of what you have available to you, okay? And start moving forward. You'll change your life from just doing 5 minutes of simple, breaking down every thought process, everything you have to do that's on your list, and then rolling the page over and then creating your schedule for the next day and inputting those tasks that haven't been done today into those allocated spots that you have available for tomorrow. And then you'll also not forget things because you're ahead of time and you've got them fresh on your mind. And when you wake up in the morning, you're going to wake up with a purpose. You're going to know exactly what you need to do, what is important, what's not important, rather than spinning fingers for the first hour of your day. New habits. New habits. We want to aim to set and develop 3 new habits every 12 weeks. So when we look at these, right, if you ever looked at the book Atomic Habits, this is the key thing. It takes 21 days to build new habits and 90 days to make the new lifestyle. So the big thing is most people don't focus on successful habits when they come into the fitness space. And that's why most people will fall behind in their success because they don't learn to bridge the gap of who they were to who they need to become to achieve what they want to achieve. And a really big thing here I'm going to put on this is, and there's a links to the belief, which is up next, is that in order to become who you need to be, you need to change. If you were the person that you needed to be right now, you'd be exactly where you needed to be. So if you're not where you want to be, it's a clear reflection that you're not who you need to be, character and belief wise. Otherwise, you would achieve everything you want right now. So this can be things like habits that are letting you down. This can be self-belief habits. This can be knowledge. Only you will know, but it's important to identify 3, not 10. 3 key things, habits, routines, or beliefs that you can implement to create a new habit on. So if you have a habit of self-sabotaging, using negative words, and you want to change that, that's a habit. If you suck at drinking water, which 96% of you do, all right, and water hydration is something that you keep failing to hit, and it's a task that you want to work on, that's a new habit. If a lot of you guys don't plan, that's your new habit. All right. Choose the three. Don't focus on anything else. Just choose the three. And that's your three key things. Whether you set up a little tick box, sticky notes, you can take them off the wall. You put drop points on your notes on your phone, and you have to tick the box to tick it off as a set task at the end of the day. Whatever it is that helps you, but you need to have a visual set point that you can tick off or mark as an achievement every single day as you end your day. It's like a checklist. And you're going to do this checklist on the three things that you need to work on the most to get you to where you need to be. So whatever issues, habits that you are currently not able to master or that you need to master, you need to write these down. So take a second. I'll give you some time. If you don't have anything in your head, it's fine. Just take your time, even if you write one. But the key thing is writing one, at least one. So from tonight, we're going to set new habits. We're going to identify our biggest barrier. We're going to implement new routine. We're going to set consistent bedtime. We're going to identify the habits that are stopping us. And then obviously we look at goal setting. So we're still writing, that's fine. I can be background noise for you for the moment. So when we look at goal setting, you want to look at specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Now, we're going to move into setting the pillars for success. Success in fitness starts with the alignment in life. So there's 5 core alignments and pillars that I focus for success in life. And I want you guys to write these down. So number 1 is fitness and health. So you need to build the body that builds your life. Family and connection. For stronger relationships, fuel strong discipline. Finance, create your freedom and reduce stress. Career, do meaningful work with purpose. So career can fall into entrepreneurship, business owners, all the rest. Doesn't matter if you work a 9 to 5, but you want to do something that's meaningful with purpose. Something that gives you fulfillment. And number 5 is self-development. Grow daily, not just physically. So these 5 pillars are the key things that I see across every single individual I work with. And I'm going to show you how this all interconnects. So we've got your fitness and health. You've got your family and connection. You've got your finance, career, and self-development. And the big thing is a lot of people come into the health and fitness. So use my pinky. They come into fitness and health, all right, because something is happening in life, a pain, a comment, something has happened that's forced them in to work on the fitness and health. Okay? So most people will start with the fitness and health. Some people, when they come in, they have some good connections, or they might have really strong connections. Other people come in, all right, and they might have really good finances. Other people are really stressed out. Not sure if they can make an investment at this point. All right, under a lot of stress. Other people are coming in and they're not that happy with their job. All right, they're stressed out all the time. And then development, they're not really looking at it. Or some people are starting to look at it, which is why they've got into the health and fitness space. But often what happens is sometimes in life, we have some of these pillars operating from 5 stars down to 1 star. So some people might come in and their health and fitness is 1 star. They've got poor health. They've got bad news from the GP, the doc. All right, they need to work on their fitness. They could be getting diabetes or they're just not happy in their body, overweight, whatever it is. All right, they're 1 star. When they're 1 star, they're typically unhappy and they're not living their best selves yet. So what happens is they take how they feel about themselves out on the relationships and connections around them. So family connections might be operating at a level of 3 stars. Because their internal environment and their environment around them isn't the best, often we see that their spending habits reflect their lifestyle. So finance might be operating under 3 stars because their finance is, allowing them to eat out, take away all the time, which is taken away from their investment opportunities. They're spending things to fulfill their void of being unhappy, whatever else is going on. In career, typically we're following suit. Or they might have a really good career, but the rest is just a little bit below. Either way, we're going to have an uneven graph in star rating. But what happens, right? Let's reverse that. We've got someone who's operating at a 5 star level now. All of a sudden, that person loses their job. Let's use COVID as a time, right? That person lost their job. That career goes down to 1 star. With that comes finance. They lost the income. So now they're significantly stressed, and that financial freedom they had, that security is now gone. So now they're extremely stressed. All right. Now that goes into 1 star. Because they're extremely stressed, they're not able to regulate emotions. They're irritated, frustrated, not sleeping, increasing stress. So, boom, families and connections start to disappear. They can't afford to go out. They can't afford to go to the pub with the boys after work because they don't have that anymore. All right. And all of a sudden, we start to cascade, and everything else around us in terms of the pillars of life fall down. And very quickly, health and fitness diminishes very quick. And all of a sudden, every single pillar has collapsed. It's like a domino effect. So the really big thing is these key pillars in life, we need all of these to be operated at a 5 star. So these pillars are going to allow you to audit your life at the moment and not only just set the goals, specific, measurable, attainable, and timely goals, or sorry, realistic and timely goals, not just for your health and fitness. You need to be setting these goals for all of these areas of your life. So the reason you wrote these down is because after tonight, a part of your 5% of planning is you're going to sit down and you're going to audit all 5 components of this pillar of your life. If there's a pillar in that structure right now that is not at a 5 star, ask yourself what is going on, how, and what is the solution to rectify this? And what steps or what person or what habits do I need to create to get this to a 5 star? Because the key thing is once these are all up and operating at 5 stars, you've really reached the optimal pillar of success. When all 5 are operating at the highest efficiency, like you will not argue me that you'll be the absolute best you've ever been. Okay? So that's your planning. And whenever you need to go through goal setting or something goes wrong in life, come back to these 5 pillars. Because typically when everything, the quote, everything in life is going wrong or my whole life is turned to shit, that people use, it's because something has happened in one of these pillars and has provided that domino effect. And what you need to do is before it gets to a dominoing effect is stop it by auditing. And these audits can be done weekly or monthly. All right, that's really important. And that self-development is really key because if you're always developing, you'll not only develop mentally, physically, and emotionally, but spiritually as well. So I can't emphasize the importance of self-development. All right. If you have any questions on that, put it in the chat box, but we'll come back to the Q&A a little bit later. To move forward, now that we've got the pillars of success, the auditing tactics, the habits, and also routine setting, I'm going to put a link here in the chat for you guys now. And this is going to open you up to our purpose schedule calendar planner. So the key thing with this guy is I'm going to teach you guys time boxing in order to maximize. That should be in there now for you guys. So time boxing to master your routine, create identity-based habits, increase discipline and motivation, and design your environment to win. So what is time boxing? Time boxing is the practice of assigning a fixed amount of time to a specific task or goal, then blocking it out in your calendar like an appointment, not just a to-do list that grows inside your brain. Not multitasking. It's intentional time allocation with a start to end finish. And why it works. It forces you to prioritize what matters, reduces overwhelm by chunking your day full of unnecessary tasks, improves focus and eliminates decision fatigue for you guys that are spinning the same ideas around and around in your head, that forever compiling overwhelming to-do lists that just get bigger and bigger and bigger. It stops the I'll get to it later loop, and it creates momentum, which increases motivation and therefore increases discipline. So how to time box, the simple framework. So what you're going to do is you're going to open that link. So if you can open that link, if you're not on a laptop, that's fine. But you're going to open that link, okay? And in front, you'll see a rough template. Don't go and edit that template because everyone will see that template getting edited. Create a copy. If you're not tech savvy, you should be able to go to the top of the file section in the Google Sheet. Scroll down to download or even save a copy. So it'll be the first 4 boxes down. On once you click the file, it'll be like make a copy. Or you can keep going down to the next section where it'll say download, and you can download it into a Microsoft Excel. But if you have Google Sheets already or Google Drive, you can just go make a copy and it'll save a copy in your Google Drive for you to refer back to later. When you create a copy, you put it down as your name and your purpose calendar or planner, and then you can start making edits to it. Now I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to change the adjustment of the screen share. You should see the schedule on my screen at the moment now. So really simple. We've got a full operation calendar from midnight to 11. And you'll see the time box in hourly. Okay. Why didn't we do half an hour time box? Because most tasks will typically take about an hour. If you want to work in half an hour, by all means do so. But most of the time you work on the hourly pretty well. So in here, we've got you some basic stuff. All right. If you have a copy, you can go down here by clicking on the operations or task at hand. All right. And you're going to plan this every single week. So you go the week of, set the date. Okay. In here, go to operation task. You can adjust these. So just go edit. And it'll bring you over to the side tab here. We can go through and change each color code and change the task that you have. Now, these tasks are going to be important to yourself. So if you're a business owner, some of these might be applicable to you. If you're not, then obviously just adjust these out. Okay. So what you're going to do is once you've updated your tasks that you typically do in a week, you're going to come through and start planning out your day. So, like I said, you're going to have your set routines now. So everything we've just learned over the last few slides, you're now going to start to put into action here, which is going to be really key. So you're going to go in here, you're going to change up this. So say, for example, your sleep routine is till 6 a.m. All right, you're up at 6. So we've just put free time here. So free time is a non-negotiable time. It's not a non-negotiable time. It's a free allocation of time. So that way, this is where your creative time or other tasks can be taken into play. All right. And then the other tasks are typically operations tasks or to-dos that can be categorized that are going to be non-negotiables. So say, for example, most people go to work at 9 o'clock. So what you'll typically do is you'll go into, I'll just use housework, for example, or you go DP work. For this one for myself, you go in here and you're off to work, all right, at 9 o'clock. That's your non-negotiable times because you can't change that, right? You're rostered. You've got work commitments. You have to do that. So you'll go through and you'll allocate, okay, what hours are you sleeping to? Set your routine. All right. What time are you going to go to bed? You might be 10 o'clock. All right. So sleep 10 o'clock, sleep 10 o'clock, all the way across. And then once you get into wake up time, you're going to set up the key things. So here, free time, typically, you do what the task is. The morning ritual. So your morning ritual might be get up, have a shower, get dressed, take your fat burner or coffee, and then head down, get ready for coffee and breakfast. Then obviously if you've got kid routines, your kids' lunches, get them up, get them at it, 7 o'clock, because school drop-off happens at 8 o'clock. Right, then at 7:30, kids in the car, let's go. All right, and off to school we go. All right. From there, kid drop-off kicks off. So kids are dropped off. All right, and then you're home after the kids drop off. From there, you're going to clean up the house after the busy rush out. All right, put the dishes, put the breakfast away, all the rest. Obviously, if you work from home, you'll then start getting to your work. So you go staff management, resources, whatever you do for your job. Okay. And then you go into allocation of days. All right. School pickup, what time that happens, what time you typically get home, and all the other routines you do. So, say, for example, we're doing cleanup and washing up, hanging out with the kids, bedtime routine during these hours, dinner time at 6:30, and then clean up, wash up, kids to bed by 8, and then whatever else you need to do. All right. So this way you can set up your set routines and categorize it. But you see the colors here, the color coordination is your key, and you want to draw these across to a set routine. And the whole point of this calendar and schedule is you'll be able to time box. So as you can see here, we've got time allocations. I recommend 1 to 2 hours for key important tasks. All right. And those are going to be the key tasks that you focus on. So you want to allocate key times. Any more of 2 hours in a productive period. So, say, for example, you're studying, you're working on a course. If you're doing any more than 2 hours, you'll start to monitor yourself that your productivity will die off after 2 hours. So, you might want to go one task of a productive task. So, for example, you might build out development and education. So, this might be a course. So, you might be doing a certificate 3 and 4 in fitness. All right, you work on your course across these 2 times. You just copy that, paste it in here. All right, once you do your 2 hours, you might set up a little bit of a free time and it might be go get steps up. I can type. All right, and you get outside for an hour and get some light, get some steps up. That way you can hit your fitness task, hit your steps, and all the rest. But any more than 2 hours, you typically find productivity will die off. All right, that's your template. So plug and play. All right, and start allocating time boxing schedules to suit your schedule. But the key thing is obviously setting to the non-negotiables, which we'll go back to our form here for you guys to review. So as you can see here, is the key thing that we want to be doing is putting the non-negotiables. So sleep, training, meal prep, family time, business, client work, or business, employment work. Okay. And then anything else around that is going to be those other tasks that you need to do that aren't necessarily that important or other tasks that are non-negotiable to get you towards your goal and result. All right. Change your belief and then change your body. Your result reflects your identity, not just your actions. So the constant, I've tried everything. I'm too old. I don't have time. Replace these with simple things like I'm the type of person who follows through. I do the work even when it's not convenient. I train and eat like someone who values health. So the belief system that you have currently is exactly why you are the way you are. So whatever you're utilizing, whatever belief you have, a really key thing is it just takes one simple change of brain thought can change your entire life. Now, let's get into the fun stuff. Nutrition fundamentals. So the truth is, it's not just about calories. It's about your hormones, enzymes, timings, and again, like we just did, the foundations. So the foundations have been mastered. All right. So in these nutrition fundamentals, we're going to cover everything from insulin sensitivity. So obviously, we want to focus on increasing high sensitivity, which will lead to better nutrient partitioning. I'm going to talk to you guys about the AMPK enzyme, your metabolic accelerator, which is activated by training and fuel balance. We'll work through fat loss, which will equal your calorie deficit plus metabolic health. And also why carbs aren't the enemy. They're the fuel source for your performance and recovery. And we're also going to maximize how to calculate your macros for fat loss, muscle gain, and energy performance. So the big thing here is activated protein kinase enzyme. So one of the key things that we do really well with our clients is we're able to lose body fat much more effectively and put on a significant amount of muscle tissue at the same time. The industry will teach you that you cannot do both. You must choose a bulking phase and then a cutting phase. And what we see is individuals are constantly tossing between getting lean, getting shredded, and then putting on body fat, feeling uncomfortable, and going from polar ends of the scale. 6 weeks of this, 6 weeks of that, 8 weeks of this. And you'll see constant rolls and ebbs and flows of people going in and out of 8 week challenges. The big thing is they're not actually effectively scheduling or maximizing each phase they're in. And it really comes down to knowledge. So a lot of people are utilizing flexible dieting. Flexible dieting is a great tool when you master knowledge, but until you master knowledge, it can really be the detrimental impact to your result. So when we look at flexible dieting, the big thing people do is they want to create flexibility into their life, which is great. But the key things that we're missing out on is the importance of nutrient timing, the importance of insulin sensitivity. And insulin sensitivity is a really big thing that we work with our clients because it is really the game changer for allowing people to eat more food and respond much more effectively. So when we look at insulin sensitivity is going to play a huge role on ensuring that we're going to be able to activate our activated protein kinase enzyme. So as you can see here, AMPK, that stands for the activated protein kinase enzyme. All right, and what is exactly it is? This enzyme is the key guy responsible for breaking down your body fat and utilizing it for energy. This guy is often inhibited in points of resistance. Now, what increases resistance? We look at insulin resistance. The key thing that affects that is dietary intake, nutrient quality, stress, chronic inflammation, all right, and poor insulin secretion response rate. So the key thing we want you guys to be doing from tonight is focusing on the key metrics of nutrition, which is going to allow you to improve the insulin's response, lower blood sugar level, and enhance the sensitive response rate of your activated protein kinase enzyme. When activated protein kinase enzyme is active, we have a lower state of ATP. ATP is adenosine triphosphate. So in simple terms, that is when carbohydrates are at maximal capacity in the blood and being converted into available energy. So ATP is a simple form for energy. So one of the key things I will talk to you guys through is with your, I'll open up my notepad here in a section and I'll show you guys. I can write a few notes. Going past the slides here. I'll open up our whiteboard. So we're going to look at your meal optimization. So the key thing with meal optimizations, all right, you've always heard about the rule of eating every 2 to 3 hours. Now, what's the importance of eating every 2 to 3 hours? The key thing for this is when we look at the nutrient partitioning that happens, when we eat the food, all right, that food is obviously going down the GI tract, all right, being broken down into simple sugars, which is the carbohydrates, goes to glucose, enters our bloodstream, and then becomes a available form of energy. As your body goes through the day, that energy is being used, okay, over that 2 to 3 hour period. As we come close to that 3 hour period, most of that nutrients that we just ate in that meal timing before is now starting to leave that blood. If we're healthy and responsive and not resistant, insulin is doing its job. I'm going to make a note here. Insulin equals anabolic action in simple term. So insulin is your key metabolic hormone. So everything we do in terms of our metabolic environment, digestion, diffusion of these nutrients, and utilizing these nutrients, insulin becomes present. Now, when we look at sensitivity, if insulin is not operating and our body isn't able to process these nutrients effectively through the secretion of insulin, we will not be adaptive, responsive, and able to effectively push these nutrients where they need to go. And that's where we get resistance, right? Is if the insulin's not doing its job, these glucose polymers, amino acids, and triglycerides that are circulating in our bloodstream aren't being utilized to their full effect. So it can lead people to put on a little bit more body fat, be a lot heavier in the gut, poor digestion state. All right, all these things come up play. But when we look at the meal timing of 2 to 3 hours, once those nutrients are entering that bloodstream, the body is using those nutrients that are available in the bloodstream, okay? And then you're going to use that for brain function, heart health, energy production, and general regulation purpose. And by that 3 hour mark, what happens is those nutrients are exiting the bloodstream. Whatever hasn't been picked up for energy production or utilization through that moment is now being excreted back into the cells, okay, and being put away for storage for when we need it. This is obviously if we're in a maintenance or a surplus phase, okay? By that 3 hour mark, what we see is blood glucose will start to come back down to baseline. Now, when we look at blood glucose, let me go here. All right, most people will sit between 4 to 6 millimole per liter on a blood glucose reading. The lower the blood glucose, the better sensitivity, or the greater the sensitivity, in simple terms. So by the 3 hour mark, the body's utilized those nutrients. We're starting to see that blood glucose coming back down. All right. And in this time, there's a small window before we eat our next meal. And in this time, we're going to see ATP lowering in response to glucose and insulin. Because we don't have available energy circulating. It's already been done, utilized. In that time of ATP lowering, we get an increased ratio of AMP and ADP. All right, which these, in simple term, are just simply the precursors to ATP. So these are the energy sources prior to getting phosphorylated into ATP. So when that happens, right, these are going to typically be your amino acid circulation. So if you guys aren't sure what amino acids are, these are the proteins broken down into amino acids, which we have 21 total, broken up into 13 essentials and 9 non-essentials. All right. And then you're also going to have fatty acid oxidation, which just simply means the circulation of triglycerides, which is your fats, in blood. All right. And when that happens, we get the increase in AMPK enzyme. So really key there. But the key thing is for people who aren't responsive and insulin sensitive, what happens is we don't get this normal regulation approach. All right. And therefore, we become resistant. And when we have resistance, we withhold higher blood glucose reading. So you have a greater circulation of glucose polymers in the blood circulating at that point in time. When that is higher and circulating at the current rate, you will not be able to utilize AMPK's functionality to break down fat deposits. So what do we do? If someone comes at a point where they're not responsive, they're not utilizing the nutrients effectively, there's a few key things we can add in. The supplements such as berberine. All right, this is a natural supplement. If we look at more pharmacology prescriptions, you have metformin. All right, these are some natural things that we can do and supplement to improve our insulin response. These are some other cofactors we can implement that will boost. The magnesium, vitamin D, and calcium D-glucarate. By supplementing these, we can, alongside nutrition, by simply supplementing these agents without effectively working on the nutrition, you will have a small percentage of return. So it's super important. These need to be inclusive in alignment with an effective nutrition program. And in terms of the nutrition program, we're going to move into macros, timings. So let's go through the breakdown. So I hope you have your pens available. I'll just write nutrition application. Yeah. Okay. So let's set up the calculations. So when we look at protein, to increase activated protein kinase enzyme, but also to ensure that we have a high synthesis rate of protein. So when I refer to synthesis, synthesis is simply the process of building, all right, bonding, all right. So synthesis in a really simple term is you put in on muscle tissue. Anabolic response, building, all right. So to ensure that we hit this position, a calculation that we're a bit more complex. All right. We use 2.2 pounds times your weight in kilograms. So for example, right, if you're 100 kilos, you times that by, well, not grams, 100 kilos, you times that by 2.2, which converts it into pounds. All right. And then 220 would be your bottom range. But we typically, for people of more bodybuilding, athletic pursuit, we can range them up to a 1.2, which in a standardized term would equal between 2 to 2.4 kilograms per kilogram, 2.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. Sorry, I lost a few of you guys there. For your protein intake. Now, that range is going to be dependent on who you are. So, what factors will influence your decision on the range? If you're an older clientele, you'll go for the higher range. If you are an overtrainer or excessive training, so typically higher volume, this is going to be 4 or 5 days plus of training, above 12 plus sets of a workout. All right, you can go for the higher range because you're going to have a greater breakdown component as opposed to someone who is not training at this kind of capacity. Okay. All right. I think someone's drawing on my piece of paper here. That's okay. All right. And then from here, all right, all of you guys got those written down. Okay, so now we're going to go into the fat component. Now, fats are really important, but when we look at dieting, we can strive fats based off decision making. So fats, what are the purpose of fats? All right. Fats help with cell membrane. They help with skin. They help with hormonal functions. Okay. They're not going to be your yielding return for energy. Carbohydrates are your energy. So fats serve a purpose, but not everything. Now, the key thing here with fats as well, we want to look at keeping cholesterol low. I'm going to move this out because someone's drawn over the top of that. All right. So in here, we've got fats. Key purpose is cell membrane function, skin, hormonal functions, and maintaining 300 milligrams or less of cholesterol. So you want to go for less saturated fat content and a really key concept. Oh, that didn't work. All right. So less saturated fat content. Now, a really simple term. If you're not sure what saturated fat content is, saturated fat content is going to be the fats that at room temperature are a hard curdled white. If you ever cooked beef mince in a pan and it's gone to that hard curdled white on the pan, that's saturated fat content. You want to limit the amount of those kinds of fats that you have in the diet per day. They're not bad, but you need a limit. And that will ensure you keep your cholesterol low. Cholesterol has a lot of good purposes. However, in excessive dose, it can impact our ability to utilize our activated protein kinase enzyme. All right. Now, in terms of dose range, 0.5 grams per kilogram of weight is the lowest form. Now, if you're doing a fast and dramatic, go aggressive rather than dramatic, fast and aggressive cut, you can utilize short-term loss in fats to preserve carbohydrates and proteins for synthesis and performance-based purposes when we apply to resistance-based training. So you can cut your calories because for every gram of fat will equal 9 calories. So not only will you get the highest calorie cut from that, you'll also be able to preserve your key macronutrients for maintaining muscle retention and training performance, which is key. This is in short terms. But for general health and regulation positions, the target will be 1 gram per kilo of weight. So if you're a 60 kilo frame, all right, you'll be on 60 grams of fat as a general standpoint starting position. Now, carbohydrates, we all know this. Carbohydrates are not the enemy. People just don't know how to utilize carbohydrates effectively. The carbohydrates, macronutrient profiling, 3 to 6 milligrams per kilo of body weight is what we want to look at. 3 to 6 kilograms, all right, if you're scared of carbohydrates, start at 3 milligrams per kilo body weight. Why? This is the safest range for you to sit in, and it's been proven with well over 400 clients that we use and teach to be an effective range for clients to be able to metabolize and effectively utilize this dose of carbohydrates without putting on excessive body fat or yielding too much consequence without a quick adjustment. So say, for example, if you are insulin resistant and you don't respond, non-responsive, okay, so insulin resistance presence and you're non-responsive to carbohydrates, so you get a bit more fluffy, a bit more watery, okay, you feel lethargic, you're not responding well to it, all right, and you chose to go for the 6 milligrams per kilo, All right. The consequence of that over a 2 week to 3 week period will not cause any detriment impact to you. That way you can effectively adjust and drop that back down towards that 3 mg. With people who are insulin resistant, we do see 3 mg is the people who are insulin resistant that are on the 3 mg dose per kilo are able to still effectively digest and metabolize that, whilst adding in that berberine, vitamin D, calcium D-glucarate components to assist with that diet and improving sensitivity. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to be limiting carbohydrate intake because it will yield training performance. We want to be able to maximize our sensitivity response so that way we can effectively utilize our nutrients for their specific purpose, which obviously carbohydrates are for training performance and energy production. All right. Any questions on that? Just put them in the chat box. Okay, moving on. Once you have those stats, the key thing is to determine wake times. All right. If you're awake for 15 hours of the day, from bedtime to nighttime, from wake up to bedtime, all right, you want to be maintaining a 2 to 3 hour meal timing. Where applicable, I understand lifestyles, jobs, lunch breaks, all those will come into play. All right. But in that situation, if you simply just divide the 3 hour meal timing to eating every 3 hours from the time of waking in a 15-hour period, that'll equate to approximately 5 meals per day that you must eat or can eat whilst breaking up your nutrients from the macro splits above. Okay. You can effectively just break down these macros that you calculated for yourself over the 5 meals per day. All right. And evenly distribute those, and you will still get results. But a key pillar here that I want to focus on is protein leucine. So the leucine threshold. Leucine is a key essential amino acid that we utilize in our decision for proteins within the diet. And we want to be making sure that whenever we make a decision about utilizing protein, whether it's a protein powder or a type of food group like eggs versus chicken or any of that kind of nature, or like a pro yogurt. And this is where flexible dieting will get you unstuck. Or sorry, will get you stuck. And this is where I'm going to unstuck you. Is because, for example, we have people that were, I've got a clear example. There's a client that I believe she's in this chat here as well. All right. And she was utilizing the collagen peptide. Another protein was upset in her belly. All right. Looked at the collagen peptide. It's not effective for its leucine component. So it's not going to yield any benefit towards building muscle tissue at all. All right, although the statistics on that nutrition panel will state that that individual is having 20 grams of protein or 19 grams of protein. I can't remember from exact off the top of my head. All right, but the actual amino acid profiles in there were not sufficient to yield that synthesis response. So building of that muscle tissue. So when we look at leucine decisions, we want to have high leucine and essential amino acid as the core proteins within each meal. And we need this to be dosed at 0.4 grams per kilo per mealtime. So again, if you're 100 kilo, 0.4 per kilo will give you 40 grams of protein from that adequate protein source as a requirement to ensure that you can effectively synthesize muscle tissue consistently over that time. All right. And what you've got to understand is when we go back to our above, the activated protein kinase enzyme, activated protein kinase enzyme is only inhibited when ATP is high, right? And ATP is when glucose is present at that time. Now, I'm not telling you to avoid carbohydrates. I'm telling you to work on sensitivity so we can shuttle those carbohydrates effectively and faster. And then in that break, when we are on that lower dip, without spending too long in a catabolic state. So catabolic just means breakdown. That here, catabolic just means breakdown. Okay. You have enough essential amino acids synthesized in your bloodstream to build muscle tissue. All right. And it will not take away from your muscle tissue. If you're without energy for too long, you enter catabolic states. When blood glucose gets low, your body is a machine. It's going to look for it. And pyruvate acid is a key guy that will break down amino acids, so from your protein muscles. Fat's typically the last source because it's not that high yield energy producing. All right. So it'll break down muscle cells and it'll find glucose available. It'll re-break those down, resynthesize those when the blood glucose gets too low outside that 2 to 3 hour fasting window times. And then that's where we get in this vicious cycle where people who fast end up in too much of a breakdown state and don't initiate the best results possible for building muscle tissue and losing body fat. What we want to do, ensure we hit these protein targets by utilizing high amino acid profiled food. Okay, so that way we can ensure that we are synthesizing tissue throughout the day. And when we are lower in that energy supply of ATP and that activated protein kinase is becoming active, it's not going to be breaking down any muscle tissue. It would utilize any amino acids in the bloodstream at that time, and it will start to tap away at body fat. And it's a very small window of opportunity each portion of the day that it will tap into fat oxidation. Fat oxidation is that breakdown of fat that we want. Any longer in high breakdown states without nutrients coming through, you will increase chronic, especially when we apply to resistance training, chronic stress, because for catabolic reactions to happen, cortisol must come present, which is our stress hormone. Cortisol will come present to create that breakdown environment. It has to happen. It's a normal process, but how long we exceed that is the key difference to getting the best results possible. If that cortisol is too high for too long, under significant stress of resistance-based training or demand on the physical body, all right, you will just undo work that you just put away. And this is why nutrient partitioning, timing, enzymatic properties, and food groups are significantly important when designing nutrition plans. And this is unfortunately where most people get stuck by flexible dieting because they don't have the master knowledge of effective dosing, timings, and ratios of food to give. So if you focus on these key components in the macros by giving these doses, focus on the high components of amino acids in the protein choices, all right, and you eat every 2 to 3 hours, and we focus on insulin sensitivity, so improving the blood glucose response, lowering the blood glucose on a more regular basis, and having it more streamlined around about that 4 to 5.5 range millimole is more of a precise reading. Any higher, you'll become more resistant. The closer to these ranges you can make your blood glucose at baseline, so that's reading first thing in the morning and after meal timing, so 2 hours. So I'll go baseline, fasted morning timing, and 2 hours after meals. You'll ensure that you're in that effective environment chemically to build muscle tissue, tap into fat oxidation, so fat breakdown, without undoing all of your important work. And this is when far too many people go wrong. If they fast for too long, they don't utilize the right protein sources in their food choices, and therefore are not yielding the best response. So if you go too long without eating, you're going to be in a high catabolic state. Your body is going to search for those nutrients. It needs energy. It is a machine. It will find and it will respond. It will continue to break down. And unfortunately, it will break down muscle tissue for too long or in too low calorie states. This is why it's super important. High cortisol for too long creates chronic stress, chronic inflammation, and therefore creates a lot more long-term consequences. It is beneficial, it is a natural process, but it will create havoc if it's not done right. Okay? That is the nutrition sector done and done it in a short period. A lot to take in. So I hope you've got all of your notes there. But insulin sensitivity is your key guy that you want to focus on. Now, let's roll it over. We'll make this quick and efficient for you. If there's any questions, write that down on your piece of paper. I'm sure I've lost a few of you guys on those, and there's a lot more questions that you've got unanswered now. Write it down on your piece of paper or put it in the chat box for you to come back to later because we will have that Q&A. Training fundamentals. Let's roll in. So training fundamentals. Most people could train hard, few train effectively. The recovery depth curve is more isn't better, better is better. And this is the big difference. Volume without recovery equals burnout and no gains. You need to focus on stimulus, not just sweating. Progression beats your variety. Build your split to match your recovery and not your ego. This one's typically coming from to the guys. Girls, the stimulus rather than sweating applies to you. All right. We look for key things, and sometimes people look at certain physiological responses like sweating or um, red faces as a measure of their training success or their soreness post-training. They can't walk for the few days after, etc., etc. The goal isn't to leave the gym tired, it's to leave the gym better than you were yesterday. And that is the key thing. The biggest mistake I see people do is most people train with too much variety, not enough focus or dedicated plan. And then most people train too hard that it's not actually effective. The key thing when we look at training is actually yielding the effect of training. Now, this is the key thing we want to talk about is the actual effect of training. We're going to refer to this as our recovery depth curve. This is really key for you guys to take away. Recovery depth curve. This is how you're going to respond to each mesocycle in response of new stimulus being applied to the body. So, first time beginners, you're going to come in. This is your baseline fitness level, wherever you're starting at. You get applied your new workout program. All right, you're up here at baseline. When you start the new training program that you receive and your body isn't used to that stimulus or that applied or that volume or that intensity, right? You enter recovery depth. So as you go on, so as this timeline goes this way, in the length of this, you've got your days. All right. Once the stimulus is applied, you go into your depth of recovery. If you train too hard for what your body or your lifestyle and your current environment can handle, you go on this red line. All right. And that's training too hard or not effectively to where you are in your current environment and your fitness abilities and capabilities. If you barely train or train very easy, you're going to be in and out real quick, which will typically allow you just to train every day, which is why most people can train every day and not feel burnt out or not feel anything from the training. The blue is where you want it to be. Is as you enter your new training stimulus, you want to have a depth. So you come into here, this is day one. All right. By day two, you're coming into the bottom depth of that recovery curve. And then by day two, you're coming to the top of that. All right. And then by day three, you're fully recovered. For the clients that work with me, you will know that I have a principal rule. Obviously, it's applicable to lifestyle and work commitments and lifestyle, like with kids and stuff, I understand. But the key rule and principle I always teach is 2 days of training on, 1 day off. This is why, because you'll have 2 days of effective recovery state. And most of the time, you'll have an upper lower split or a horizontal split with a lower dominant split. And the reason is because they're not going to be crossing over on the recovery curve. You're not going to be smacking the upper body twice in a row before hitting a recovery state up here. What you do is you enter your baseline, enter your depth, and by day two, you should be effectively recovered by day three. All right. So typical on that third day where you're just still coming up on the top of that curve, right? You're not fully super compensated. The key word here is super compensation phase. Super compensation phase is where you've now gone from your baseline, which is your pre-existence prior to the training phase that we just gave you, where now you've actually compensated to the volume you just received and your body handled. And now you've actually beyond ready to handle and have a high capability of handling more output. And that's where into like week one of a program, you'll be like, oh, that was fresh. By week two, you're like, okay, cool. I'm starting to progress in my numbers again. I'm feeling good. things are starting to move good, and this is because you're compensating to that previous weeks of volume. By week 3 of that mesocycle phase, right, you'll get another yielding effect of supercompensation. So that supercompensation effect just keeps growing because you're applying new stimulus through volume progression, being the weight, and your body is recovering and responding to it well in alignment with the nutrition. By week 4, that response kind of dies out and you kind of come a bit more to more of a new baseline, right? And that's that bottom part of this curve here where you get back to baseline. That baseline, though, is not where you first started. That baseline is where your body is now sort of getting a bit fatigued and needing some recovery from the past mesocycle you've just put it through with progression. All right. And then what will happen is once we go through a bit more recovery after that week 4, all right, and you hit your new baseline, all right, your body's compensated to that current effective training. We then enter with a new stimulus, okay, and that can either be from a deload and be able to, progress more with weight, or a new stimulus from intensification, i.e., tempo control, i.e., shortening rest periods, i.e., increasing like drop sets or pyramid-like work in the sets, all right, or simply just changing the exercise selection because you can't progress any further on that movement. These are all ways that we can increase into the next mesocycles. All right. That is the key thing. So if you can really take a picture or master this graph that I've got here for you, that will make sure that you understand the importance of the recovery depth. The biggest problem that people do is they go down and they just keep training. And they just keep training. Day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. And they never come up above that baseline. They never get that recovery state. Okay. Now, the fatigue curve recovery factors. Your conditioning to the exercises, was it a type or exercise your body is used to? This will influence the recovery curve. Your metabolic and neural recovery capacity. So if you're a first-time trainer, beginner, you're not going to have a great capacity to work off. If you've been training under a set program or coached by me for 2 years, well, you're going to have a very high capacity given what we've been able to compensate your physique and your body to. So how fast are the metabolic and neural systems being replenished? This is influenced by such things as diets, supplements, and obviously for people that use drugs or pharmacokinetics. Your exposure to other forms of training. I just want to take it back actually in terms of the pharmacokinetic side of things. A lot of individuals, right, males are typically, that's when we refer to the ego side, right? A lot of males aspire to be like their famous bodybuilder, all right? What they will see is bodybuilders, that are on the Olympia stage using pharmacokinetics, train like animals, train to a very high standard, but they also have all of these factors boosting their capacity of recovery. What we see is these new guys or young teenagers coming into the gym, they don't have that kind of capacity environment. And what happens is they want to train like the people they aspire to be, but they're also not in the same metabolic or neural environment as that individual. And what happens is these young people or people who are not knowledgeable or have not had that right experience or guidance will typically overtrain and not get the results they want from aspiring to be like someone they're watching. That's a really important thing. You can watch people on social media, but it's important to follow your own journey. Just a key reminder. Your exposure to other forms of training, so exposure to additional training during this recovery phase may slow down to the recovery. For example, people that are running marathons or doing sports, contact sports outside this will also have an impact to their training. Your exposure to specific recovery methods, so methods such as massages, hot, cold baths, stretching, all of these will improve your recovery state. So if you don't stretch and you continually train and you don't do any form of recovery, well, you will have a longer recovery cycle needed. If you're able to be effective in your recovery, get good sleep, get frequent massages weekly to fortnightly, or spend time doing compressions or cold baths or having lower stress environments, your recovery will be a lot more efficient and responsive. 5 is obviously lifestyle. Is your lifestyle conductive or counterproductive? So is everything in alignment? For example, if you're out drinking on the weekends, partying, is that going to be productive to your recovery? Most likely not. These are all the things that are going to influence that. I've just lost my slide. So this is the really key thing that we want to look at is the SRA. This is the formula we use. Stimulus, fatigue, recovery, and adaptive curve. Phase 1 is accumulation. Phase 2 is intensification. Phase 3 is the functional overreaching, and phase 4 is deload and recovery. So the clients that work with us will see that you will have accumulation in your training programs. When you first start, we're about building the capacity. We're building up your body's ability to handle more volume and more load to effectively recover at a faster response time and also yielding more response in nutrients as well. Because the more you can handle, the greater range you have to work within. Once you accumulate certain volumes and you build that environment and that capacity, physically, strength, and neurally for your body to respond, you'll then therefore increase from that point intensification. There's no point continually increasing volume and exercises and all the rest into the training program. You increase intensity of the session. What I mean is you might start off when you're a beginner in your first few phases at 50 to 60% of intensity. Right? You're not going to be pushing to failure, hitting PBs and 1RM squats. You're going to be working on more 4 or 5 sets, 50, 60% intensity, all right, and hitting across 8 to 12 sets per muscle group. And eventually accumulating that up to about 20 sets per muscle group. All right. And then from there, you drop back that volume into phase 2 and you work on more intensity. So go from 50 to 60% intensity, now up to that 70 and 80. So going to 2 to 3 reps in reserve or close to failure. And that's intensity. You can add your supersets. This is where tempo comes in. This is where reducing rest times come in. These are all intensification matrices that we use to excel that recovery and adaptive curve. And then functional overreaching is where we get your body up to that level where we can push it to its maximal potential prior to needing a deload and recovery. Nutrition fundamentals. So if you have any questions about the training side, write them down. Nutrition fundamentals. I'll make these ones quick and wrap this up for you guys to get into the Q&A. So nutrition fundamentals. Supplements, like we've always taught, are support and not the solution. Everything works synergistically. So it has to work together. So when it works synergistically, all right, you're going to get the uniform approach. A lot of people rely on supplements, but then fail on the nutrition. Other people just prioritize training and neglect the rest. All right, supplements are there to support, not to solve the problem. And that's why supplements got such a bad name for many years, is because people relied on them as being the magic pill and the solution to all the problems. They're not the problem, they're the support. The key essentials that I recommend you guys have is creatine monohydrate. Creatine monohydrate is a simple guy, much like carbohydrates. It stores as creatine phosphate in our system, much like carbs store as glucose, glycogen. All right, glycogen is our stored carbohydrate use, and it's like a little fuel tank. It stores up. The average 70-kilo individual can maintain and uptake 120 grams of creatine phosphate stores. We don't get enough creatine from our diet intakes to even replenish those phosphate stores if we're resisting training. The average person can maintain between 5 to 10 gram dose. We recommend, if you haven't used creatine before, to run a higher dose for females. The recommended dose would be 21 grams a day for the first 7 days to build up that phosphate store internally. That's your safe fuel zone. For men, 25 grams a day for the first 7 days, and then backing that off for females for a maintenance dose of 3 to 5 grams, and for men, 5 to 10 grams per day maintenance in based on training performance. A really big thing is your magnesium. The brands that we recommend are Caruso's and Nutrilife. Caruso's is what we stock here at Purpose Nutrition as well. But the key thing for those is not all magnesiums or supplements are created equal, and there's going to be some that will contain key bioactive ingredients. When you look at magnesium, you want to look for everything that ends in ate, ATE. All right, this can be magnesium citrate, glycinate. All right, Caruso contains the most active salts for price-effective dose, and our recommended dosage is between 200 to 400 milligrams of magnesium per day. Electrolytes. Magnesium is typically added into most electrolyte blends, all right, and it will support electrolyte retention in the body. Electrolytes are not created equal to water intake. Electrolytes refer to sodium, chloride, and potassium. Electrolytes are super important for cell communication and response time. If you're dehydrated and lacking electrolytes, you will not perform or have effective cell regulation and communications internally. If you are hydrated and you have an effective balanced electrolyte dose inside, you can effectively respond at a faster and more efficient rate. This refers to growing muscle tissue, speed of reaction time, muscle contractions. All of those play a huge role. Protein, supplementing protein. Obviously, whey protein is one of the highest for protein digestibility score. So PDIAS. It's a score that we use to rectify protein. Okay. If you type that in, I'll put that into the chat box. But PDA, so protein digestibility amino acid corrected score. All right. If you Google that, that will bring up a list of all of the most active ingredients, or sorry, the highest bioavailable form of proteins and amino acids out of all protein sources. Whey protein is number one alongside chicken. All right. So these are the key things you want in your diet. And the reason why we recommend supplementing protein is because it's easy to digest, it's quick and efficient, and it will aid in fast uptake. And it also has the highest available amino acid score. Omega 3s is a key thing that we recommend for most people because most people don't eat fish at all. And omega 3s are going to typically come from your fatty fish alternatives. All right, but omega 3s will help in the inflammation response with weight training and also stress that we live in our day-to-day lives. Vitamin D is a key precursor for hormonal regulations, skin, brain, energy production, and all those. Optional supplements are obviously nootropics, gut health, hormonal balancing, and support products. These are things that we recommend based on each individual. We're not going to widely advertise or promote those to individuals without knowing what you require. These are all optional and you can purchase those if you'd like. We do back them, but like I said, it's all individual. So around the supplementation use, most people waste your money on the wrong supplements. And what we do here is we cut back on the bullshit and only stock what works. We back everything by science and use it in real life coaching results. So our offer for attending the webinar is if you use the code Team Purpose, that's when I say 10, not 1%. You get 10% off all of your supplementation by using that. What a cheap ass, 1%. My Lord. All right. So if you jump on, use Team Purpose, you'll save 10% on your products. I'll put that link in the chat as well. So www.purposenutrition.com.au. You check out the website. It has all of those active ingredients of supplementation. So you don't have to think about what supplements are going to work best, whether they're active or not. You can trust me, the guy behind the screen. It says all people behind the screen. All right. Not sure what to take? We'll build your custom supplement stack based on your goals. All right. You'll get that free with any order. You can also click below, take the quiz. And also there is a link on the website where you can actually book a call for all your custom supplementation advice. All right. Now, quick around roadblocking. Some simple things that can be roadblocking you. So roadblocks, all right, you might be doing everything right and still yet feel stuck. Why? We've already spoken about most of these things, but chronic stress to elevated cortisol, maintain stubborn fat, sleep debt, don't listen to me, low recovery and hunger dysregulation, and then menopause and hormones. Slower adaptation and different strategies are required than typical mainstream. The big thing that we see is like, this is why coaching is so unique, is because most people are trying to follow everything that's on social media, but you're all individuals, you're all going to respond differently, and there's so many different ways we can work with an individual and different things that they're going to need based on health responses and lifestyle factors. It's very quite hard to give an accurate answer without knowing someone's true profile. So sometimes when we look at individuals that actually have health issues or menopause or dysregulations or any of that kind of nature, you might not be doing it wrong. It's just like the approach just isn't right for you. For example, the insulin resistance is going to be quite key for people that are in menopause. So your approach has to be different. And you might find that even with my advice, you still won't get the best result because you just need something a little bit different. All right. So cortisol is obviously your body's primary stress hormone. It's released by the adrenal glands in response to physical and emotional or metabolic stress. It's part of your fight or flight mode, and it plays a key role in blood sugar regulation. So if you ever track your blood sugars and you've got high cortisol, you'll find that sometimes you'll have a high glucose reading in the morning, and you're like, why? Well, sometimes the breakdown with cortisol being present, you can resynthesize that glucose into the blood, and that is what happens. It plays a role in energy production, inflammation control, metabolism of fats, carbs, and proteins. That's the catabolic reaction. But when we're chronically elevated, it starts to work against you, especially when it comes to fat loss and muscle preservation. All right. Now, increased blood sugars can also increase fat storage. Cortisol stimulates glucose production in the liver. All right, like we spoke about previously with the catabolic reaction time. Chronic elevated levels can lead to insulin resistance, making it easy to store fat, especially around the abdomen. It'll increase muscle breakdown, so catabolism. High cortisol breaks down muscle tissue for energy. Less muscle then also will then therefore lower your metabolic rate, meaning even less calories burnt at resting states. Not only will it increase cravings and appetite, it boosts your ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, and reduces leptin. All right, which is going to basically increase cravings, and leptin will help keep you more satiated. So satiated just means more of that fulfillment, fullness effect. So you're not as hungry and craving as much as well. This creates intense cravings, especially for sugars and fat content. So for you ladies that are always after chocolate, this might be you. All right, dysregulated sleep. So if you're up at night, can't close your eyes, can't shut off, typically cortisol will be present at that time. And then obviously with the sleep deprivation that you're going to experience, it just leads to further recovery issues. And therefore we create a vicious cycle. So poor sleep, high cortisol, worse fat loss responses, and then therefore into thyroid suppression. So chronic stress will blunt the conversion of T4 and T3, which is our active thyroid hormone, leading to more slower metabolic responses. Other things that can happen, we refer to like menopause and other hormonal imbalances. So for you ladies, typically they're going through menopause, you're going to have estrogen drops, which obviously estrogen will help regulate fat distribution, especially around the hips and thighs. When it drops, your bodies will start storing more fat around the belly, so more visceral fat, and then it gets harder to lose and links to more inflammation. You get progesterone declines as well, which will increase water retention, poorer sleep, and increase anxiety and mood swings. You're going to have an increase in cortisol. So with that, you're going to have poor sleep, increased stress. Cortisol then becomes more dominant, which therefore leads to high cortisol, more belly fat, muscle breakdown, and dysregulated metabolic environments, and then therefore recovery. Thyroid function slows, and insulin sensitivity drops, so you become more resistant. So it's really important to get those reviewed and take the right approach to get on top of that. Men, we've got low testosterone, much like a female. You're going to start to struggle with building muscle tissue. You're going to have increased belly fat, less motivation and poor recovery and more brain fog. You're going to have elevated estrogen levels, which then will therefore increase mood swings, water retention. And these things can be worsened by alcohol, and body fat levels increasing can also increase estrogen. Also increase cortisol, therefore increasing the lack of sleep, recovery, and all the rest that we covered. But the key thing as well with lower testosterone, you're going to also suppress immune functionality, and therefore also thyroid functions like the females as well. Obviously, if you're interested in working with us, we can book a call. So if you guys are interested in you feel like there's a lot of information here that you're not linked up with, there is the option to work with us. We do have many packages and services available. The best thing to do will be to jump on what we call a discovery call. And so we actually jump on a call. We work one-to-one with each other, and it allows us to actually go through what's going on, ask questions about yourself, and determine some possible barriers and solutions moving forward, and discuss the best option for yourself to move forward on. All right. We have three big packages. We've got our lifestyle package, our performance package, and our elite package. All right. And that's going to be featured based on each individual's preference, and what's going to be best suited to the individual. For here, we've got all of our free resources. So this will be shared also after. I'm also going to get these guys to copy across for you into the chat box. But you can also just take a screenshot if you like and copy and paste from your phone if you need it. But what you'll have, I'll put in the discovery call link there as well. which is also on our link trees and our websites as well. You guys also get a 7-day free access to our course. All right. So our Physique Mastery course is a bit more education, which breaks down things in a lot more precise manner, so you can coach yourself and learn some more valuable information. As well, part of tonight, I'm going to put in the link there for you for a free education book download. So you'll be able to get access to this book, and that will have heaps of information in there. You guys already have the calendar box, and you also have the website already for your supplementation use. All right, I'm going to finish sharing the screen, and let's roll over into some Q&As. If anyone has any questions, raise your hand, take yourself off mute, get rid of or turn your camera on, and we can roll through some Q&As. Leah?
I'm so good with technology.
That's okay.
It's serious. I couldn't even work out how to open that link you sent. So I'm getting better, but I'm still bad. I don't really have any questions on sort of pretty, like I got a bit out of that, but I don't really have any questions.
No?
I've
Okay.
I've got a few lectures for Corey when he gets home, but that's about
That's good.
it. So,
That's good. You
come
can
on, Lynn.
pass on to him. Shame he's not on the call. Luckily,
Yeah, he'll be going, oh, great. Have I got to sit here and listen to this? So,
I'll send him the recording link.
yeah, I recorded the whole thing because he keeps doing the whole fasting thing. And he's
Yep,
been doing it for so long, and I keep saying to him, like, you're just stuffing everything up. Like you know, anyway, it's like talking to a wall. So,
that's right. Hopefully, you can listen to me and it sinks in a bit better.
yeah. What about you, Lynn?
Any other questions? You're right, Amber. Have a good night. Hope the kids go to bed for you. So, any other questions? Feel free if you don't feel comfortable talking on the mic. Um, Catherine, Coach, thank God you do my program. Hi, I really need the recording link and I want to know how to make a meal plan. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll put the link up here. Um, so I'll just grab this link now for you. So this link that I post will give you access to our Physique Mastery course. You've got a 7-day free access there. You can navigate into the nutrition modules. And the nutrition modules, I break down a bit more on how to run a nutrition program for you. Um, so that way you can learn a bit more. It's a lot more detailed. They're all in separate episodes and broken down into a lot more concise episodes. So it's not in one big hit. So feel free to jump on that course. That's the recent link I just put there. So I'll just put course below. And then yeah, just register your account and they'll give you access for 7 days. If you get stuck on that, obviously feel free up above. I've put the Discovery call link. You can just jump on that and book a call with myself directly, and we can work with you to assist you with the nutrition to get started. Hopefully that helps. Mel, thank you. Appreciate your time. Is there any more benefits training in the morning versus the afternoon? I've been told so many different things. Um, Look, obviously, when we look at the heat map of the metabolic adaptions, the morning window is going to be the most optimal time for the benefit of the metabolic adaptation. So your body's utilization of nutrients, driving carbohydrate uptake, all of that. I think the biggest link or barrier for people training in the morning is people are used to training in the afternoon. So until they get that new habit, most people will find training performance will die off. But as well, the key thing is when we look at morning trainers, right? You're typically waking up from a fasted state if you're sleeping 8 hours. So when you're in a fasted state, you're not going to have that available glucose circulating as what you do in the afternoon. So the ATP isn't as available as that time. And as well, because you're being asleep, you're also going to be significantly dehydrated. So prior to training in the morning, or even over nighttime, you want to just prioritize the change in the nutrition. So at nighttime, drive a little bit more carbohydrates in, a little bit more protein. Even, look, it's a bit extreme, but if you're in a growing phase, you can drive protein shake like throughout the night if you wake up. I used to do that, was put protein shakes when I woke up at midnight just to get a little bit more in. But just try and put a bit more carbohydrates, probably a little bit less fats, and more protein and carbohydrates at the nighttime. A small portion, probably like 20% of fats at nighttime, will just help slow that digestion down and preserve it for the morning when you wake up. Obviously, feed first thing when you get up. Obviously, you might not be as hungry, but it's important to try and get some quick acting sugars and some easy digestible carbohydrates in. But the key thing is pump electrolytes. So on our website, we've got replenish electrolytes. It's 800 milligrams of sodium straight up in the morning, and that will yield your performance in the gym. Because the electrolyte imbalance that happens in the morning dehydration state is typically why people don't perform. So try that, just try a bit more electrolytes in and just see how you go. But it's like a habit. If you're used to training in the afternoon, you can't expect to be training brightly in the morning. It will probably take about 2 to 3 weeks for you to get the full effect of the morning training and get into that routine. But just changing a few things up with hydration, electrolytes, and carbohydrate manipulation, you should yield that effect. But in terms of a biochemical level, and a hormonal response, you'll get a lot better return training in the morning because like you have the spike of growth hormone, the heat maps for all the metabolic adaptations are at the peak as opposed to evening. So you get greater utilization of nutrients at that time. So hopefully that helps. Any other questions? Catherine, I have some reflections to share as coached by Jarrod New Learns if you want me to share. Yeah, absolutely. Put them in the chat. Always useful, Catherine. Thank you. Lynn, thank you so much for your valuable information. I know Paul, Lynn, and Leah, you guys are a bit tired past your bedtime. See you guys yawning and holding on to the tables with life. So thank you. Thank you for staying on.
I'm like going, oh my God, I need to get up soon. Just kidding.
I could see that happen.
I might go, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you. That was awesome.
you're right. Thank you. Have a great night.
Okay. Ciao, ciao. I don't know how to get out of it. Can you
Crack
hang
up.
me up, Jarrod?
Yeah, I'll remove you. Farewell.
You? No, no.
Just crack up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Jarrod. Thank you for spending your time and sharing it with us and putting into so many words what you do for us in programming because I'll leave it all with you, but you've explained it really well what you do for all of us individually, which is pretty insane to be honest. But my reflections from your um, discussions tonight, I've put some notes in, which was be consistent with training. And, for me, I had some injuries that you've helped work through with me and got specialist treatment for. So my goals moving forward were to be consistent with my training. You've worked with me on my training goals. And my other personal goals that I have, and drink more water and stuff like that. That's the note from tonight. Be consistent. What I've got here also is the pillars of success. So once I achieved my pillars of success in what I wanted to do with what I achieved probably over the last 3 years and 18 months with you, my family followed with that. And then you've seen that journey with my family as well, with my girls and my husband, which is really quite special as well for me to share with them.
Yeah, it's been great to watch the
Um,
girls get into it.
yeah, yeah. Food, training, the lifestyle. But like I said, just hearing what you did tonight with the whole nutrition, breaking down all of that, along with the physical training side as well. Is just, I'm glad I leave that to you, because I can't do that part, which is why I leave that to you, and recommend that for other people as well. I'll just go back to my notes as well from tonight. Yeah, busy families. You know, I did 2 degrees while I studied 2 degrees while working with you. I work full time, have a family. So that whole time boxing thing that you did with scheduling, and prioritizing sleep, work, family, study, that was really important for me to get through that time and go through competing, going through the competing stage, with what we achieved together was really special, and I couldn't have done that without you. So thank you so very much for doing that and taking the other stuff, what you've explained today, pretty much with the nutrition and training, off my plate, and just handing that to me basically on a platter. But you've prioritized me in personalizing the program and doing that also. So thank you.
It's okay. Very much welcome. Did you have anything else to add at all?
I learned a lot tonight, but I also learned that I'm still glad that you take off all that programming from me.
Yeah, there's a lot
And
to
you
it.
do that from me. There's a whole lot of other stuff that I allow you to look after as my coach, and I entrust you with that, and that's why I do that. You're a specialist in it, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. That's why I'm in my place. But yes, it's definitely there's a lot to the back end of health. And I think it's a big thing for a lot of people. Hopefully a lot of you guys on the call tonight, but there's a lot that goes into the back end of it, than people realize. And I think it's a lot of people try to do it themselves, but until you grasp even the basic knowledge, there's so much being missed. So to be really great, which is what we're here for, we're here to be great, really unlock our greatest potential. And I think if you're not in that position to do so, it's definitely important to outsource that to an expert, whether it's myself or someone else that you trust in. But yeah, the results are unparalleled when you work with a master in that space. It's yeah, a very hard thing to grasp that kind of knowledge. It takes a lot of years. So I'm glad I'll be able to break it down into simple forms. I'm sure I probably lost a lot of you guys tonight with a lot of the terminologies, but it just goes to show how full on it is. But it is now 9 o'clock, guys. So if there's any important questions, let me know. I'm sorry I did run over time, but I like to talk and don't like to leave things untouched. You spoke to me like a friend that wants my best. It's really a great feeling. Definitely. That's what I'm here for. So I put these free events on, is to help as many people as I can. So yeah, I'm glad glad you felt that way from this webinar. Especially I haven't met you before, so it's really nice to hear that. But as well, I hope you enjoyed, and we will pass on some emails. I think you put in the chat before about the recording link. This is recorded, so we'll upload this to a replay system, and these links will go out hopefully tomorrow, so you guys can watch back and review these for further information as well. But a part of those emails that you get, you can also respond to those emails, and you'll get straight in touch with myself. And then obviously, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Taylor. And we'll see you guys around in the gym. And Catherine, to the boss as well. Definitely. So yeah, those emails will go out tomorrow. So I'll get those plugged in, and once the system uploads this automatically, you guys can watch it back and send it to whoever you feel might be getting a benefit from these webinars as well. All right. But if there's any other questions, please put them in the chat. But other than that, I'll wrap it up in the next 2 minutes. If I didn't hear from anyone. But guys, thank you again for all your time. Have an amazing night. And we'll hope to hear and see you guys all soon. You're welcome. Have a great night. We'll see you soon.